fellow collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at Deluxe Class Wheeljack from the Transformers Studios series line from Hasbro. This is number 108, and of course Wheeljack was featured in Transformers Rise of the Beasts. I think it's kind of funny how he is packaged here, where the head is kind of cut off. I feel like he definitely could have been a little bit lower in the window. We are still with the plastic-free packaging, so there is no covering window here. I think they're going to be getting back to that fairly soon, but we'll see how it goes. Over here on the side, you can see some nice artwork of Wheeljack in his robot mode. Over here on this side, kind of a different picture, a little bit more of a full body shot there. Got the Autobot symbol. Up here, we have the Rise of the Beast logo. Not really anything going on down the bottom. And then spinning it around to the back, of course, we have the robot mode and the vehicle mode. And then it shows a little backdrop that's included from that kind of hillside highway battle that we had in the movie. So pretty cool stuff. I'm going to go ahead, get Wheeljack out of the packaging here, and we'll take a closer look. Here is Wheeljack with the little display base / diorama piece that's included. Again, it's just a piece of that kind of curvy hilltop highway. And yeah, he looks pretty cool in there. If you have room to display these, I personally do not, but I always like that they're included, and I think they look pretty good with the figures inside. Here is Wheeljack out of the packaging, and I think the robot mode is okay. There's definitely some weird things about it. It's not perfect, but for the most part, if you're going to just pose him on a shelf, I think he looks pretty good. Now, you have this piece here on the back. In the packaging, it comes up like this. And I'll be honest, I don't hate that look. So if you want to store it up there to kind of, keep the kibble out of this section here, you can. But it does also kind of make the back look a little hollow because it's kind of indented. So I think you're officially supposed to keep it down like that, and that kind of hides a little bit of that. It's completely up to you. Whatever your preference is, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't get in the way of anything here. So whatever you prefer. Head sculpt, I think, is pretty good. If we zoom in here, you have those glasses. You have his baby blues. Some nice silver paint there for the face. He still has those kissable lips. Overall, pretty good head sculpt. It can look down ever so slightly. Look up ever so slightly, tilt side to side. You can kind of tilt side to side a little bit, but not much. I don't know. Mine feels like I can't align it properly. I guess that's not too bad. I had a problem where mine was kind of leaning to one side, but I guess maybe it's a little better. So yeah, head sculpt's pretty good. The wings here on the back, you have a little bit of movement. You can kind of see that there's a joint there. They can't move a ton, but they can kind of go at this 45-degree angle, which I think is kind of neat, and you can tilt them forward and back a little bit. So if you kind of like the idea of them a little bit closer to the body, I like them out a little bit, so you can kind of simulate the wing doors. Not too bad there. You do have this piece here, so that if you wanted to, you could have the arm use that shoulder piece to move up. But then you have this ball joint here in the shoulder. Now, it's a little awkward. You can't really go out to the side unless you utilize this, but then you can completely turn it to the side because the slit for it is in the back. And I'm assuming that's for transformation, but I kind of wish that you could leave this part here and still just tilt the arm out to the side. You really can't get any out to the side shoulder tilt unless you use this, but then his arm is up by his head, and I feel like that's not natural, so he doesn't quite have the kind of shoulder movement here that you'd want. You have a bicep swivel right above the elbow. You have maybe slightly over 90 there in the elbow. And then the forearm and the hand is all one piece. And you have this piece here, which there's a lot of open space in there. I don't know. I just feel like they probably could have done something better than that. This seems more like something you'd see on one of the budget figures, not a studio series. And you can see very hollow inside there. I don't know. That seems a little lazy to me. I think they could have little something better there. You have the suspender piece here that kind of clicks into place. You do have a waist swivel down there. This is another part that I don't love the thighs. I just think the thigh and waist area is very strange. I don't like how you can see so much of the bar for the ball joint. I also just think this shape is weird because you have part of the side of the van there. So he just has like a rectangle hip You can kick decently out to the side. You can kick pretty far forward, and you can kick decently back. Even if this is in the way, you could just move this a little bit and kick pretty far back. But I don't know, just something about the shape of the thighs and the fact that you can see so much of the bar there that has the two ball joints on it. I don't like that a lot. It's just a little awkward. And I also feel like there's a little bit of play back and forth on the ball joint, but not as much as I'd like. So I don't know. It's just a little unnatural. You have a thigh swivel though, which is decent. He has kind of two knees, so you have the normal knee, which would give you about 90. And then you have this kind of weird other joint. So if we open this up, you can see there's a ball joint here, which you use for transformation. So it gives him kind of one normal knee and then one kind of backwards knee. Now, obviously, you're supposed to keep this closed up, but you can still utilize it a little bit to bend in weird ways, so that's a little awkward. You do have some nice paint down here on the shins. I think that's kind of good. A little bit of detail here. You can really see these pins, though. They're very, very obvious. And then you have some roof kibble here on the back of the leg, which kind of hides the fact that you just have the whole back of the van there just hanging out. So I don't mind that, honestly. That kind of does a decent job of hiding that. And then down here for the feet, you have the wheel here, which doesn't really get in the way. You do have ankle tilt, but I feel like you can only tilt as much as that wheel. Because if I try to have him stand like that, that wheel's going to hit the ground before his feet do. So you kind of have to be almost at that angle at the most, because that wheel's in the way. Also, the way the feet transform are very strange. You can see that there's kind of a hinge there, because what they do is you kind of fold up the heel and then they just kind of sink back into his leg. And it's kind of snug. So I don't know, just a lot of engineering things that I'm kind of just, finding myself wondering, why did we go with that? It's a lot of weird stuff. Now again, if I'm just putting him on a shelf, does he look good? Fairly movie accurate? I think so. With the exception of these pieces here, on the forearm. But from certain angles, it's not that bad. It's only if you kind of look at it from this angle, But something like this, just to put him on a shelf, I think he looks kind of cool. I do like what they did with the doors, so I appreciate that. And again, you can keep this down, you can push this up, whatever you want. But for the most part, just as a robot, I think he looks pretty good. The articulation's all right, but definitely weird in spots. Oh, and I forgot to mention this blaster. It's a very generic blaster molded out of this kind of smoky black translucent plastic. Honestly, with the shape here, it reminds me of Ratchet or Ironhide's blasters from 86 Studio Series. And I'm not sure where they got this from, because I think in the movie he had, just like everybody else, where his arm turned into a big cannon. So I don't know where this accessory is coming from. It doesn't look bad, though. I mean, just having him, wield this gun, I don't think looks bad. So robot mode is fine. I think I'd even give it a good. Not terrible, not fantastic. But like I said, if you're just going to put them on a shelf, I think this looks cool. Now, of course, I have to bring in the mainline Wheeljack. They're about the same size. Mainline's almost a little bigger. And I would say this is probably more screen accurate. But this one's a little bit more fun. I mean, the color brown they chose here is very kind of dreary. This guy's got kind of a cool copper going on here. He's got a little bit of blue with the translucent plastic. Now, again, that is, blue translucent plastic that's been painted, which isn't always the best alternative. But he's got the little bit of blue paint here. He's got a painted Autobot symbol. I think this guy's a little bit more fun. I think he's a little bit more vibrant. Now, he does have, these big panels here on the arm, but he's also mainline. This is Studio Series, so he is cheaper. So I guess it really depends on what you're going for. I think this is probably more screen accurate. I think this is a little bit more fun. Just my my personal opinion. He does have massive feet as he knocks over his competition. So yeah, it's really it's what you're looking for. But I also just feel like his hips are so much more fluid. Now he does have the wheel in the back here getting in the way. So I don't know. I think they're both valid. I think if you're just looking for screen accurate to pose on a shelf, you'd probably go with this guy. If you're looking for something fun, I think you'd go for this guy. And that goes double for when we get into the transformation, because this guy's transformation is just one clearance issue after another, and the directions perform magic. We'll get there. Let's go ahead. Let's get into this guy's transformation here. So the transformation is not super difficult in terms of, the steps or the number of steps. It's just, like I said, so many clearance issues and pieces that just can't fit. And you'll see what I mean as we go. We're going to start with bringing the head. Make sure you have that straight if you haven't done that yet. And then we're going to kind of bring the arms up, and we're going to want to utilize this shoulder hinge that I pointed out earlier to just kind of put that all the way up. And the funny thing is, this is really just for clearance issues' sake, because they're not going to stay there. They're actually eventually going to come all the way down. So this joint can go a full 180 range of motion, and we're actually going to end up 180 degrees down from where we start out here. But throw them up there to kind of get them out of the way. We can come down here to the feet, and you want to fold up the little heel, which I will say he does have nice heels, and he does stand fairly well because of that. You need to straighten out the ankle tilt, and then this is just going to fold backwards into the leg. And you just push that in as much as you can, which is just a weird choice. It's not terrible or anything, it's just a weird choice. So straighten that out, flip up the heel, and then that's just going to sink back down in there like so. I think at this point we can... Actually, I guess we'll leave these up for now. I don't think we have to move them yet. We're going to spin this 180 on that ball joint in the second knee. And then we're going to spin this one as well. And then you can kind of tentatively connect these together for right now. At this point, we are going to disconnect this little set of overalls or suspenders, whatever we want to call them. And we need to kind of... There's some clearance here. So we already have clearance issues with these doors and this piece. So we have to kind of bring this down like this and then flip this little front piece out. And it's hard to even grab a hold of this front piece to flip it out. And this gets wobbly because this is just a really basic connection. You can even see that this is kind of stretched out a little bit. But basically you want to just flip this up like that. Which, I mean, there's some nice detailing and paint there. We actually get the VW symbol. Although it almost looks like the paint is scratched on mine over here. I don't know if that's coming through on camera, but... So this has to kind of be up here like this. At this point, we want to bend this section up so that this is like this and the doors are oriented like this. And then you want to spin this section on this kind of second abdomen mushroom peg and spin that around like that. This is where the not fun begins. You have to bring the arms down, so you have to rock the doors back as best you can. That's about as far back as they're going to go. I would say go ahead and do this now. Flip these out. You're kind of... There's no way to win here, because if you leave them until after they're down, they're going to be impossible to flip up. But if you flip them up now, it just creates more clearance problems. So you have to kind of bring this down and straighten this around. But again, now you have to not hit into these. And again, because of the way the shoulder is, it's really difficult to skirt this. If I had this kind of cut out and I could bend it around more, I wouldn't run into this issue. So I'm going to try to go around like this, I guess. And then you have to, again, I wish I could pull this. If this was cut out, I could bend this here where I want to bend it, but I can't. So you have to kind of shimmy this down and then kind of get this. You have to get this into this area here. But because of the way they've done the shoulders, they really should have just cut this out. I understand that they were probably trying to, you know, for facing and, you know, not having a bunch of gaping areas in terms of how the robot mode is presented. But it just causes so many issues. Because with this piece here, not only can I not bend it the way I want to, this is a piece of plastic that's in my way. So it's a twofer in not working out correctly. So you have to kind of bring, it's so difficult to do. And then with these doors not being able to go anywhere, that's another issue. Now the doors, it's very possible they'll pop off because they do that. And honestly, you might want to just pop them off because it makes it a little bit easier. So if they pop off during all this, so if you take that off, now I can do this. This goes down, and then I can just leave it there. This is how you eventually have to get it. So maybe it's easier to just pop the doors off and pop them back on. Now again, it is a translucent piece of plastic, so there is the possibility that if you do that a lot, it will cause it to break over time. That is possible. But anyway, this is where you want to get. You want to get this up like so, and you have to bring that down. So, and now this is gone and connected when I didn't want it to. So again, we have to bring this down, try to swivel it. And for some reason, it's easier to do it when you're going back to robot mode. I don't know why, but it really doesn't feel like it wants to do it in this. There we go. Okay, so that actually was a little easier. So here we go. So now we have our arms like this. This is supposed to come down and click into place over here, which it does nicely. And then this is supposed to come up. And it's kind of awkward because, like, you have to... So see the little area here where the mushroom peg is? That little translucent tab has to kind of rest in there. So you have to kind of bring this over and then pop this up, so that way that can all line up and then that'll snap into place. So again, you have to kind of clear the elbow joint and then bring this up, and then that should click into place. So then there is the front of the Volkswagen van here. So we have our arms. Okay, so this is how it is, like this. The directions say, flip that up. I don't know about you guys, but this cannot bend out. Now, see how this is? Because of this hard piece of plastic here, if they would have had the joint be here, and I could bend this further out, it wouldn't be an issue. I don't know how I'm supposed to move this through this, but the directions just say do it. So that's fun. So what I've kind of found works, although it's not easy, is I try to rotate this vertically to give you some kind of clearance to bring these up like this. And I guess you can try to rotate the elbows out, and that helps a little bit, but it's still not great. So once you have that up and you can clear that, then I need to rotate this back. But now the fists are kind of in the way. So, like I said, it doesn't need to be this difficult. It just doesn't need to be this difficult. It's just so many clearance problems. So then this is supposed to come up and snap into here, although it doesn't really like to. But I believe there's somewhere in here that you can see these tabs right here and here. They're supposed to kind of come up and tab somewhere in the back of this piece. But it's not really doing it. So we're just going to leave... Oh, you know why? Probably because this is turned still a little bit. So I've got this piece turned, and now this is turned, and I don't want them like that, so try to line that up. And maybe that. Yeah. So it also doesn't like that this piece isn't lined up yet, so we're getting there. So flip these down. This is going to go up. So as you can see, the thighs are filling in a side of the van. And I don't know what it is, but the one on this side, for me, does not like to stay. Maybe it'll do a little bit better now. Bring this down. But see how it tries to tuck back in? And I think it's just because the thigh joints are so weird. And this isn't quite aligned, and this isn't quite aligned. And nothing really wants to snap in like it's supposed to. But it becomes an issue because there are little pegs here that are supposed to peg in here and here. So you have to kind of bring this down and kind of get this to stay where it's supposed to. Peg that in. Then come over here, get that to stay where it's supposed to. But it keeps wanting to fall in. Now the nice thing is once you have it kind of good, you can tab. You can see how there's these little tabs here. They'll tab in here. So that will kind of secure that. And that's nice. And then this will just lift up and just kind of drop in underneath with these tabs. And then, whoops, as I'm saying to do it, it pops out. And then push this all down. So you can see that this doesn't really want to stay together. There it goes. Maybe it'll stay now. Nope, pushed it down, popped out. What's going on over here? Okay, that wasn't tabbed in. So there are these little tabs that kind of tab into the sides right here. So that's a little better. So there we go. There is our little Volkswagen bus. Alright, so here he is in the vehicle mode. It looks pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of panel stuff going on here, and this section that was the hips in the robot mode doesn't really like to stay in position for me. It could be me doing something wrong. That's absolutely possible, but I don't know. It's just not quite right. I do like the silver trim that goes around. I don't love these two giant holes in the back windshield just so that these pieces can drop into them later. That's kind of a bummer. You have the feet and the shins hanging out down here with the arms. But I think you can kind of see his head inside like he's driving around. I think that's kind of funny. It does look like mine's pretty scratched up there though, which is a bummer. In terms of the weapon, I believe this is supposed to, yeah, there's like this very tiny little slit right here that this little tab can pop onto. So if you want to put the gun on top, you can. Otherwise, he really doesn't have any connection ports anywhere else. Can it pop in? No, because it's vertical. I was going to say, could it peg into one of these two on the side, but it cannot. So, yeah, only one spot to mount the weapon. Overall, I think it does look good as a VW bus. Now, if we bring in the mainline one, you can see that they're about the same size. Obviously, this one's got a worse looking back, so 100% I'll give it to this one, but I still don't like those giant holes right there. But if we're taking a look at them from the side, let me zoom out ever so slightly here. Again, I think this is a better shade of brown/copper. This is actually all on one panel, so it doesn't look so weird, because there's a giant gap between the P and the A there, which I think looks a little weird. And then from the front, while yes, this is not technically a VW bus, it doesn't have the branding, I still think this is more fun. I think the translucent blue is a little bit more fun than the translucent gray here. You have a red Autobot symbol, you got the pops of the blue color with the silver. This just looks kind of drab. I mean, this really, again, is it more screen accurate? Probably. But the colors are just very drab. This one's so much more bright. But yeah, they are about the same size. So, and I'll tell you something else. This one I transformed in about 10 seconds. So much easier to transform this one than it is this one. So, I would say this one's a little bit higher off the ground as well. So again, screen accurate, more fun. Studio Series Wheeljack. Honestly, he's a bit of a mixed bag. I think the robot mode looks pretty good, and if you're picking this up just to put it on your shelf because you want a fairly screen accurate Wheeljack to pose with the rest of the figures from the Studio Series, I don't think you'll be disappointed. I think the robot mode looks good. For the most part, the articulation is pretty good. I do like the look of the wings here on the back. I think that's kind of cool. But I just think that they did something really strange with the shoulder articulation. If they would have just cut this out to here and maybe filled it in back, I don't know, moved that joint a little bit higher up, I think you'd get better posability out of that shoulder. I think it would be a lot easier to transform that shoulder into vehicle mode. Now, I have transformed this a few times, and it's always easier going from van to robot. I don't know why. The shoulders just pop out so easily when I'm trying to get them back into robot mode, but getting them down in there is always so challenging. I don't know why. I've tried to pay attention and see what I'm doing and try to use the same angles in reverse. It's just, maybe with time it'll get easier. I don't know. But it's always so much easier going from vehicle to robot than robot to vehicle. It's kind of just a big clearance weirdness. I also don't love the hips down here. They're blocky and weird, and you can see so much of the bar with the ball joints on it. This whole area to me is just a little wonky. I don't love this. I feel like that's kind of lazy, and I think they could have done something better than that. I don't know. Like I said, if you're just going to pop them on a shelf and look at them like this, you know, these sections won't bother you as much from this angle. You won't have to deal with the transformation, put the shoulders in a pose you're happy with, and just pose them. Fine. He'll be fine. And I mean, the head sculpt looks good. I still think the colors are a little drab. I would have liked the Autobot symbol to be painted, but maybe that's movie accurate. I don't remember. It's been a minute since I've seen it. I think in the robot mode, if you're just putting him on a shelf, he looks good. If you're looking for something fun to transform back and forth, I think you should go with the mainline. Now, the problem is the mainline figures, as far as I know, did not get single releases here. I think they were supposed to, and they didn't. Walmart, for whatever reason, only took the Voyagers. So if you want the mainline release, you either have to like buy a foreign release, like from Amazon Japan or something like that, where they actually got released singly, or you'd have to buy the Target exclusive 3-pack. And maybe you don't want all those figures. I don't know. So, I mean, those are things to weigh. You know what I mean? You have to decide, do I want a fun transformable Wheeljack and I like the rest of the figures that are in that mainline 3-pack from Target? Is that even available still? Or do I just want a good-looking Wheeljack on his own that I can pose on my shelf? Then maybe you go with this one. I just think the transformation is not fun. At the end of the day, it's not fun. The van doesn't hold together as well as I'd like. Those back sections, like these part of the hips that become the side of the van, don't seem to want to stay in the right spot. And again, could be me. I could be transforming it wrong. I'm willing to admit that. But it's just, the van looks fine, but it could be better. And the colors just seem drab to me. And the transformation is not fun. And that's where I'm at with this. I'm going to put him on a shelf just like this. And he'll look cool. And I'll probably never transform him again. If I'm going to transform something back and forth, I'm going to do this one, because this is a lot of fun and simple to transform back and forth. And I'll just have him look like this, because the robot mode looks good. But that's about all it's good for. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, thanks so much for watching.